Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. We're talking boxing, we're talking basketball, pretty much 90s basketball, we're talking Bulls. All praise be to the most high God. Without him, nothing is possible, in my opinion. And also, this stream is brought to you by L.I.V.E products. L.I.V.E, live now, we're live now. If you want to donate to the stream, you can also donate via PayPal. Let's get into it. I'm gonna start off with basketball real quick, and then I'm gonna go into boxing. Scottie Pippen responds to Stephen A. that LeBron James won a championship without help. And you can see him there with his Twitter tweet right there. Scottie Pippen, King James won a championship without any help. He was responding to um, certain comments that were made by the brother that was on the Oakland Warriors, right? The Oakland Warriors. KJ was, he obviously won a ring with the Warriors. And Scottie Pippen was responding to KJ. KJ was, he was saying, you won the championship with a lot of help. You had, Steph Curry. You had, all of the other teammates with Steph Curry that were, all-star players surrounding you when you won your championship. And, KJ was playing on another team, which had some great players on it too. But he had played against the Warriors. The Warriors had beaten them. And then he joined the Warriors, and that's when he won his championship. And, of course, KJ was talking about, leaving the Warriors because he didn't like how he was treated there. So Scottie Pippen, in response, was saying to KJ that you won your championship with a lot of help. You had a lot of help on that team. And LeBron James won a championship without any help, or because he had to be brief. What he really meant was without, keystone players, keystone players, all-star players every year. They're all-star players, keystone players. LeBron James. Now, this is not 100% true, and Stephen A. Smith tried to directly go at Scottie Pippen because of his wording. But what Scottie Pippen was basically saying is that LeBron James played on 3 different teams. And he was the piece that when added to those teams, they won a championship. So this is what they mean. This is what Scottie Pippen means. As LeBron could play with almost anybody and win a championship. This is kind of what he was saying. Whereas KJ had to go with a particular team that was already winning. He had to join a team that was winning. Had the winning formula to win a championship. This is what he basically was saying. Stephen A. Smith took it out of context. And so Scottie Pippen's a very analytical guy, and, he was, as you will see when he starts to dissect what the Bulls were and so on, as you will see, he's a guy that really, when he's talking, you really should listen to what he's saying. Now, how he said it, obviously, was not accurate. Obviously, LeBron James had a lot of help. It's a team. It's team sports. Of course, you have to have help. But what he was basically saying is he wasn't dependent on any given set of players to win championships. Why I say that is because he was on 3 different teams with 3 different sets of players. He could play with any player, basically, and still get a championship. So I think Stephen A. Smith at the time. I think Max Kellerman sort of shot back at Stephen A. and basically kind of countered him. Because when you think about it, the Cleveland Cavaliers, yeah, okay, they had Kyrie Irving on the team, and they had, I think, another, some veteran players, and one or two All Stars, I think. But it wasn't the same as the Warriors. The Warriors was loaded when KJ went on there. I think that's Scottie Pippen was basically saying, your success rides on the success of others. It was a successful team without you. You know what I'm saying? You just kind of added the icing on the cake for the team. You weren't like imperative. Like if KJ wasn't on the team, wouldn't be a championship team. Even though they may not have won championships once KD left. KD, not KJ, sorry, KD. Making tremendous mistakes there. And it's not Kevin Johnson. Kevin Johnson's KJ. He was KD. Sorry, my bad. But having said that, the point is that, you have loaded teams, you're going to get championships. Well, sometimes, because there's only one team that can win a championship every year. So you could have loaded teams and not win a championship. It depends on what player you have. Like LeBron was that key player to win LA that championship that they needed to get. You know, um, you know, he had Dwight Howard on that team. He had, you know, Anthony Davis on that team. But even so, the major guy, the guy that carried the team to victory was LeBron James, right? Those guys developed under him. So when he was with the Miami Heat, D Wade was there, right? But LeBron was, the guy that actually carried the team to the victory. Never mind D Wade, when he coupled up with Shaq, also had victories there. So D Wade was kind of a key guy there as well. But when you look at the Cleveland Cavaliers, they weren't a championship team until LeBron James came, and that made the big difference. So the key player there that made the difference for that team was LeBron James. The key, they weren't in championship status yet. I think they made the playoffs or something like that before he came, but they weren't championship team. So this is what Scottie Pippen means by LeBron James won a championship without any help. And he did. With the Cleveland Cavs, if you think about it, he didn't have any really tremendous marquee players. Like, how D-Wade was a marquee player before he went to the Heat. There were no marquee players when he was with the LA Lakers. It was a young team being built. And, you could talk about Dwight Howard, but Dwight Howard wasn't having a good time in the NBA. And, Anthony Davis, he was still developing as a player. He wasn't an all-star or anything. He became something because of LeBron. LeBron was on the team, so he didn't have any marquee players. So this is what Scottie Pippen's talking about. He's talking about any notable help. Like, okay, take for instance, Michael Jordan with the Chicago Bulls. He had Scottie Pippen. Scottie Pippen was an all-star, I think a year or so before they won their championship. Right? He still had Scottie Pippen, and Scottie Pippen, obviously, he had Scottie Pippen for, the duration of the Bulls' success. And Scottie Pippen, without Michael Jordan, carried the Bulls to the semifinals. They would have probably won it all, had that bad call not being called against them. And Scottie Pippen would have been seen as, he was a critical piece of the Bulls and all-star almost every single year since, right? That's not been the case with LeBron and Kyrie Irving and all those guys. Okay, LeBron's never really had the marquee names with him, except for D Wade. D Wade, with the Heat, yes, but with the LA Lakers, no. With the Cleveland Cavaliers, no. And it all showed when he left. When he left the Cleveland Cavaliers, they didn't, they sunk to the bottom of the barrel. He's still there with the LA Lakers, so we don't know what'll happen with that. But, when he was with the Miami Heat, when he left the Miami Heat, and D-Wade left, he and D-Wade left, and then that was that. Miami Heat has never since regained that status. Scottie Pippen and Michael Jordan, when they left, that was it for the Bulls. Still had Tony Kukoc, still had Ron Harper, still had they still had what do you call him? The 3-point shooter guy, the Bushler and Steve Kerr. They still had all those guys, but they sunk to the bottom of the barrel. You know, Tony Kukoc was putting up some numbers, but Brent Barry was there as well. It did make a difference. You know, they didn't do well. So, you know, Scottie Pippen was a key guy. You know, Michael Jordan was a key guy for the Bulls. And then, of course, you had, you know, uh, um, the coach. I'm trying to remember his name. Phil Jackson was also a key member of the Bulls. You know, now it's a team sport, so we expect the team to help out. But what I'm saying is that with Michael Jordan, he had Scottie Pippen, right? With Shaq, he had Shaq's an interesting one because Shaq also, Shaq came in D Wade when he went to the Miami Heat after he left the Orlando Magic, and he went to the Miami Heat with D Wade. He had D Wade. People talk about Bushler a lot. Not Bushler, Bosh a lot, and Bosh was important. But like the key guy here was D Wade. D Wade was like the anchor. So it was Shaq and D Wade, and then Shaq left. And when he went to the LA Lakers, it was Shaq. And, there was the help like Eddie Jones and, what's his name? I forgot the kid's name. The guy kind of looked like a mini Barkley, but he was skinnier. It's coming to me, but it's not coming to me. But anyway, he had him. And then, of course, it was Shaq and Kobe. And then Shaq left. And Kobe, they built a team around Kobe. And then Kobe did his thing much later on, but he did his thing. So I'm just saying that Shaq also did it to some degree without any help. Now, it's not true that he did it without any help because, of course, you had, when Shaq was there, you had Harper and you had a whole bunch of guys that was there with Shaq. All the marquee names you could think of, they were there. All-star guys and stuff like that. And then, of course, Kobe was a big help later on as well with Shaq. So, but still, you could say Shaq went from one team to another team. You really didn't depend on any one singular player. I mean, of course, he had D Wade with the Heat, and D Wade went on to do great things without him. He had Kobe with the Lakers, and Kobe went on to do great things without him. So, but he had two different teams. He still had help. But with LeBron didn't really have any marquee names with him like that. Like all-stars year after year. He met all-stars year after year with his team. It wasn't quite like that, So Scottie Pippen, I thought, was right in what he was saying. He didn't articulate it perfectly, but in the context of what he was saying concerning KD, it made perfect sense what he was saying in that context. And Scottie Pippen's not a guy, he's a very analytical guy. So when they tried to go, tried to break him down, I was listening to Stephen A. Smith try to go in on Scottie Pippen. I was like, yeah, but you're talking out of context. Like Scottie Pippen was speaking in context. When he speaks in context, he's correct about what he's saying. You have to see that he's responding to KD, whereas you're just speaking generally out of context. And I think Stephen A. Smith didn't quite grasp that. Now, I want to share with you guys, again, analysis with Scottie Pippen. This guy is like very analytical. Like he breaks it down perfectly. And this is why I like Scottie Pippen. He's not saying outlandish things as much as you think he's saying. He's actually explaining to you things. And again, Scottie Pippen is not saying that Michael Jordan is a terrible player. When Scottie Pippen talked about Michael Jordan being a horrible player early on, in his career, he was saying he's a ball hog and he didn't know how to pass the ball and he took bad shots. And he was right. Now, Michael Jordan evolved a lot after that, but he's speaking about a certain period in time. So a lot of times when people listen to Scottie Pippen, they don't really listen to what he's saying. They don't listen in context to what he's saying. Okay, here's Scottie Pippen. Listen carefully.
If it had been you and Phil and MJ and Dennis, how many more championships could you have won?
I would probably say at least 2. I would have loved to have challenged ourselves to a point to where someone could defeat us. We had the most perfect chemistry in basketball history. Phil's system gave us direction. Michael brought unmatched competitiveness. Dennis was a machine on the boards and on defense. And I was the one who could fill every gap on both ends of the floor. You have to understand, we did not just rely on talent. We relied on teamwork. We knew each other's habits. We knew when to pass and when to step up. In the playoffs, our defense could make any superstar struggle, and our offense could find an answer at any moment. Think about it. After our three-peat, there was not a single team in the league that could truly stop us. The Rockets, the Jazz, even the Lakers that came later, none of them could break our system. If we had stayed together, I believe at least 2 more championships would have been ours, because that Bulls team was not just a dynasty, was a completely different kind of dominance.
Right. Again, very analytical. When Scottie Pippen talks, he's very analytical with what he's saying, and that's a key point here that I wanted to stress. As you know, Scottie Pippen was considered the best all-round player on both ends of the court. And when he put up like figures like, let's say 17 points, 11 rebounds, 10 assists, he can give you a triple-double. It really affected the game. And Scottie was a guy that always gave people advice on defense. Like I was listening to him recently when I was watching the game with the Utah Jazz versus the Chicago Bulls, the 6th and final game of that. And listen to him telling Ron Harper what he needed to do to step up to make sure. He said, don't let this guy go left. Don't let him go left. Make sure when you orient your body, make him go right. And, all these little tricks of the trade that Scottie Pippen would be talking to the different players. And the thing with Scottie was Scottie could double team on a heartbeat with anybody, and he could cover ground very extremely rapidly. So he would like steal a ball from a guy. He's marking a guy, and he's like maybe 2-3 meters away from the guy that's about to shoot the ball, and yet he would cover that ground in a split second, and he, swat that ball out of the guy's hands that was shooting. And he covered ground really, really fast. Like you think you have an easy layup. Scottie Pippen looks like he's about 4 or 5 paces down the floor. He doesn't look like he would get to you. And yet he would take off with this tremendous amount of speed. And before you know it, your shot's blocked. And it blocked off the backboard. And somebody's collecting the rebound from the opposing team to yours. And they're heading up the other end of the floor. Scottie Pippen was that kind of guy. Defensively, this guy was a problem. And then Scottie Pippen would fill in all the gaps. Like he was a guy that, like he said, fill in all the gaps. So if offensively you need to get some offense going, he could throw, he could start, changing up the offense and distributing the ball in a certain way. He knew who the hot hand was. He knew the play that was being run when a guy goes back door or loses his man, goes back door and is free. He would get the open guy. Or, Scottie Pippen was a guy that, if he needed to step up and start shooting, he would shoot. And the thing about Scottie Pippen was, he could pull the trigger at the 3-point line. He could slash to the basket. He could, pull up and do a short jumper in between. He could score anywhere on the floor. That was the thing with Scottie Pippen. And he could score with his right hand. He could score with his left hand, right? Not just layups, but he could shoot with either hand equally as well. And that was the thing. That's what made him a big, big problem. Then he was a taller guy than usual. So like, point guards are usually like 6'2", 6'3", but he was like 6'8", 6'9". So he's a long guy. So anybody trying to mark him on point, usually they were shorter than him. And that means he could shoot over them. So he had a clear shot almost all the time. And so that's what made him something. And then he was much bigger than Michael Jordan. He was longer than Michael Jordan. He was a heavier guy than Michael Jordan. I would say Michael Jordan was more sturdy. Scottie Pippen was bigger, probably stronger than Michael Jordan, but he wasn't as sturdy as Michael Jordan. Michael Jordan used to get hacked really, really bad. Pippen got hacked really, really bad as well. But when he fell very hard, and he hurt his back and stuff like that. He, to wear it off and keep going. He was also extremely durable. So you got Pippen on that team, and then you got like he said, like a scoring just a scoring, very competitive, you know, eat you alive kind of player in Michael Jordan, and then a scoring like he's like a scoring machine. Michael Jordan used to score like 45. He could score 55 points in a game. A scoring machine like Michael Jordan. I think the thing that made Michael Jordan win MVP almost every time he played and won a finals was his scoring. He was like a prolific scorer. You know, his defensive game was on point too. Don't get me wrong. 1-on-1, Michael Jordan was a problem. Every now and then he would cover ground like Scottie Pippen did, and double team and shut down a player. The Bulls would converge on guys, and I mean, it didn't even take a split second for them to converge on you because of the way how the defense was spread out. So they were a problem. It was a serious problem. Just those two players alone on any team, I don't care what team you have them on, those two players, and they're so in sync with each other. Those two players alone would be a problem for any team. And then you throw in a Dennis Rodman or a Horace Grant on top of that, who's, that their thing is rebounding and, finishing plays as power forwards. You got a tremendous problem. And then the thing with the Chicago Bulls was their fourth man, whether it be Ron Harper, Tony Kukoc, B.J. Armstrong, Bill Cartwright, whoever you want to pick as the fourth guy. Their fourth guy was a problem, offensively and defensively. Like if you pick B.J. Armstrong, you got to watch out for that three because he could just stop on a dime and throw up a three and kill it. Or BJ could penetrate, like he was really quick. So you penetrate. He could either dish it out or he could go straight to the rack and lay it up, slash to the rack and lay it up. Or he could pull up and take a short jumper. Like BJ was a problem. If you're talking Bill Cartwright as a center, as your fourth man, the dude blocked a whole set of shots. He was a shot blocker. He was a playmaker. He could also shoot the ball. He could shoot mid-range shots mostly. Fadeaways. He was really good at that. He also could slash to the rim. He'd dunk on you. I mean, Bill Cartwright was 7 foot something. He was a big guy. So if you used him as your fourth man options, the Bulls had a lot of fourth man options. They had Bill Paxson, who known for the threes. He was a shooter as well. So depending, you could have Bill Paxson, you could have Bill Cartwright, you could have B.J. Armstrong. Your fourth man was a problem for the early Bulls. If you're talking the later Bulls, you had Ron Harper. Who was like a defensive glove, steal shot, steal things, finish plays. Yeah, Tony Kukoc was just left-handed genius. Like everything was with the left hand, which made him hard to guard. And slashing to the ring, shooting threes. You had Steve Kerr, who was like clinic. Like this dude hardly missed a shot. Like he has the highest three-point percentage in any game. So I mean, whoever you want to pick as the fourth guy would be a problem. That's what I'm telling you on that Bulls team. And then you had a fifth guy, and you could pick from any of those guys I just said as the fifth guy. And then you have a bench that's pretty deep in any era, whether it's the early Bulls or the later Bulls. You had a pretty deep bench. You had Jeb Bushler, who could shoot threes. He was like a gunner. You had Jason Caffey, who could be center. You had Scott, what was his name? Scott Williams, I think. Scott Williams. You had Stacey King, who could block out, space out for you. You had, that team was deep. The bench was deep. And the bench sometimes put up some serious numbers for those teams, whether it's the early bench or the later bench. So this is what made the Bulls a problem. Like the Bulls was a problem. And that's why, Scottie Pippen said maybe they could have won two more. But I think because of their age as well, it would have been harder for them. But of course, if Phil Jackson was there, I feel they would win. I think more players would have had more roles and more scoring roles, particularly as Jordan was starting to fade off. And the responsibility would have been distributed more among the younger team. And in fact, they could have transitioned from being a winning team, an older winning team, to mentoring a younger winning team. I think the thing that Jerry Reinsdorf and the general manager had a problem with was the life that the Bulls lived when they were on the road was just extremely expensive, and it's probably getting more and more expensive. I think that's the key thing here. These guys used to, have the biggest, best luxury hotels they'd go into. They'd have, great feast dining. I mean, the Bulls were treated very, very, very well. You're talking, top of the line everything, you know. And I don't know how much that cost the general manager and Jerry Reinsdorf to maintain that kind of lifestyle for that team. John Sally said, the best treatment that he ever got in his career was with the Chicago Bulls. Like they rolled deep. It was very expensive, very high quality stuff that they experienced when there. And I don't know if that may have been one of the reasons why they were looking for fresh talent and fresh people, because the cost was so high. It was getting higher and higher every year. And maybe that's the reason why the general manager, he was thinking of, nah, we're going to wrap this up. And then I don't know if it's because he was being threatened by Phil Jackson. Like Phil Jackson, he was wondering if Phil Jackson would become the general manager of the Bulls. I don't think that would have happened. I think Phil Jackson showed in his career since then that he wasn't interested in that. And of course, Bill Paxton became the general manager. And I don't even know if Bill Paxton is interested in probably having, they should bring back, if anything, for the Bulls to do well again. If he's still willing to do it, they should bring back Phil Jackson. I know it cost them a pretty penny to make that happen, but that may be the best investment they could ever have. Phil Jackson working with a new set of guys, because Phil Jackson has never gone wrong when it comes to coaching. This guy, he knows what he's doing. And if Tex Winters is still alive, bring those guys back, man. That's a winning combination right there. You just need to get now players on the Bulls team, but you're gonna have to put out some money to get Phil, because Phil's proven himself. So it's gonna cost you a pretty penny. That's all I'm gonna say about that. All right, so we covered the basketball end, and I know I took a while to do that, almost half an hour. Let's go into the boxing. I think this is going to be fun to talk about, because I'm not going to talk about, obviously, I'm not going to talk about exhibition fights and that stuff. You guys know my channel. You know I'm serious about boxing. So let's talk a little bit about, first of all, a guy who shouldn't even be talking in boxing right now. This dude should be holding his head in shame because of his cheating against Devin Haney. But Ryan Garcia had this to say to Shakur Stevenson. Boxing for sure. The sucky thing is still no one is lining up to watch you fight. You must effing suck. That's what Ryan Garcia said. And of course, Shakur Stevenson responded with, nice narrative, but you can't trick me. I've been 10K plus in stadiums for years. Back when you had 3,000 people at your fight with Luke Campbell. Ryan Garcia says, jealousy burns. I know. Damn. I would hate to be you, so envious of another man. That truly sucks. You got a lot of inner work to do. And Shakur responds with, stop being so sensitive. No jealousy. I just think you're supposed to be a better fighter than you are. Which is true. He's not all that. Shout out to Omaha, Nebraska. We're going to be blessed with Terrence Crawford. They're going to have a victory parade Saturday, September 27th, which is today. It started already at 11 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, 10 a.m. Central Time, and it's streaming live on Rings Social and YouTube. So it's actually streaming right now, so you guys can go check it out, man. This here is my favorite. This is my boy Lonnie B, keeping it real 100%. And he talks about some upcoming fights, which we will talk about in a minute. And the excitement of boxing is here. Some people are trying to be detractors, talking about boxing is dead. I laugh when I hear that. I laugh. We've got some really great fights this year and some really great performances as well. So obviously, I don't agree with that statement. Man, I saw Shakur Stevenson. They was doing play fighting. Andrew Ward with Shakur Stevenson. Shakur Stevenson pieced up Andre Ward in that exchange. Damn. Shakur has gotten way better. Way better. Staying behind his defense. I saw him piece up Andre Ward, bro. That was kind of crazy. Of course, Andre ain't been in boxing for a minute. But Shakur was piecing him up. Ah, yeah. Suki now. I was like, what? Y'all can go ahead and watch that. It's on Fight Hub TV. Check it out. Where he's sparring with Andre Ward. Looks like in an eating place. And that boy's gotten bad, boy. Shakur is a bad dude now. That defense he got is on point. I like that he's using that right hook in the shell defense, man. I like that. You know, he hooking off the defense right there. That was really cool in the southpaw stance. He pieced up Andre Ward, man. First he threw a jab, then he threw a jab to the body. He threw a left to the body. Sorry, my bad. And then he came over the top with a right hand. And Ward had no protection for them things. And then he came with a straight left to the body, and then he came with a right hook. And Ward was walking into all them shots. Shakur, he's like, man, you make a mistake, I'm gonna make you pay. He really is that dude right now. So respect to Shakur, man. This dude's starting to show us he's levels up. You know, he's version 2.0 of the old version. You know, he's showing us that the old school fighters, you know, the ones before, he take the baton, he going with it. You know what I'm saying? Like I said, I think Crawford's an improvement of Mayweather. There are aspects of Mayweather that Crawford don't have, obviously. I feel like the cream is rising above everything right now, and Shakur is showing us, you know, he's the next. You know what I'm saying? And I'm really grateful to see that, because that showed me boxing's still alive. And the future of boxing is with Shakur, with Devin Haney, Teofimo Lopez. And we're going to talk about all of that in a minute. You know what I'm saying? And shout out to my boy Lonnie B on talking about that. If you guys haven't seen this video, go check it out on Fight Hype, man. Check out Lonnie B being interviewed there. I really like it, man. Shout out to Lonnie B, man. Lonnie B actually came on one of my streams, you know, and we was talking and stuff. And, you know, he's talking about, you know, he's a Christian. He followed Christ, you know, Lord and Savior. You know, he believe the Most High is the way to go. So shout out to my Christian brother, Lonnie B. He still ain't getting that shine that he deserves. You know what I'm saying? He still don't get that shine. But don't worry, man. Your time is coming, bro. Stick with it. We're going to hear about you. Just like how Terrence Crawford didn't get his shine, you going to get your shine. You was a damn good boxer. I can tell you that right now. Lonnie B, he don't just talk. He's a really good boxer. He old school. And, you know, he's fought a lot of really great fighters as well. So shout out to Lonnie B. Been kind of not been seeing him get a lot of fights of late, but he gonna get his shine. Telling you, man, this dude is underrated when it comes to being a boxer and a fighter. And he deserves his shine. He deserves his time. So hopefully he gets his time and his shine soon. There's things in the works for him. And that is awesome. But as you know, I saw that interview with upcoming fights and stuff. I want to show you guys what we got in store for us. Okay, first of all, Jerome Boots Ennis, he's going to do his debut on Saturday, the 11th of October, 2025, against a gentleman named Lima. All right. So that's going to be his debut at super welterweight. So we're going to see how that goes. That's going to be in Wells Fargo Center in Philadelphia. So he's got a home fight, you know, or a homecoming fight, and we'll see how he does it with his homecoming fight. Right, they're bringing him along good. Nothing else to really mention on the undercard, so I'm not going to, you know, talk about that. And then we got Garcia. He's coming back to the sport of boxing. He'll be fighting at super welterweight. So he tried his hand at middleweight, got stopped. So he's going to try and go back down to super welterweight and see what he can do. So he's having a 10-round fight with a brother called Gonzalez. Yes, he retired from boxing, but he's unretired. He's coming back to see what he can do. You had Richard Comey also on the undercard, so that's kind of cool. On October 25th, we got Joseph Parker. He is fighting for, I believe it is the interim title for the WBC title that Alexander Usyk has. So he'll be like the number one contender to Alexander Usyk. We'll see what he can do against Wardley in his fight against Wardley, October 25th. Okay. And then on October 25th, on PBC, we're gonna have Keith Thurman versus Sebastian Fundora. I'm gonna tell you right now, I'm listening to Keith Thurman how he's breaking down what he got to do with Sebastian Fundora, and I am quite interested. One thing about Keith Thurman, he really talk a lot of things that make sense, and he talks a good talk before a fight. And I don't know, man. I'm after Keith Thurman kind of broke down things about Fundora, things that he could exploit, things that he's looking at. I don't know, man. I will be interested to see how Keith Thurman performs. He hasn't fought in about a year. I think he had one fight last year, but of course he's a veteran fighter now, 36 years of age. Fundora is a guy, if you old, he gonna make you old, right? Fundora brings it. The question is going to be, can Keith Thurman execute what he's talking about, the vulnerabilities in Fundora's game that he sees? And I'm interested in seeing how he performs against Fundora. I'm not going to say I favor Keith Thurman yet, but, a couple other things we'll have to look at to see, because I think this is Keith Thurman's also debut at super welterweight. Of course, he was supposed to face Costa Tszyu, had to pull out supposedly because of an injury. Costa Tszyu took the rematch with Fundora, and he got, he had to quit because Fundora was beating his ass up. We'll see if Keith Thurman can handle what Fundora. No, remember, Keith Thurman has always been vulnerable to the body. So that's something that Fundora loves to throw body shots. He throws to the head, but he also throws to the body, looping shots to the body. So as much as Keith Thurman said what he said, concerning Fundora and his shots and his sloppiness, and though he's relentless, he is open for the right hand, especially the overhand right. And also, as he said, he's also going to try and work Fundora's body. But we're going to see, if Keith Thurman can first of all keep up with the pace that Fundora will want to set for this fight, and two, if he could execute the game plan that he's talking about, trying to wear down Fundora to the body, see if he protects his body well. Also see, Fundora is a guy that likes to fight on the inside more than he likes to fight on the outside. That's a tendency by him. And, he's not very consistent with keeping people at bay on the outside. So we're going to see if Fundora changes up his game a bit to be able to fight Keith Thurman on the outside. And Keith Thurman does know how to go in and out on a fighter. So that's going to be interesting as well. And we have to see how Keith Thurman's legs hold up in this fight. And, Fundora, taking away the biggest advantage in this game, which would be, his length. He likes to fight in the pocket a lot. And that's how he gets caught with shots. Will he have the discipline to sort of keep the fight at range until he feels like he's dominating Keith Thurman? Will his jab really play a key role in that? Will Keith Thurman take away his jab from him? There's a lot of very interesting questions to play out in this fight, but this is definitely an intriguing fight for me. This is a good matchup, and because of Keith Thurman's age, I can't give the benefit of the doubt to him. And in fact, that I saw him the last time in the Australian fight, and he dominated the other guy, but that's not a guy on the level of Fundora. You know what I mean? That was a acclimatization fight for super welterweight. Of course, at that time, Keith Thurman was trying to go at Costa Tszyu, who had a lot of confidence at the time, and I think was undefeated as a fighter at the time. Suffered a loss to Fundora, but it was because, of the I believe it was a headbutt or something. His eye got really bloody. Elbow or something he ran into, something like that. So the second fight, Fundora did a lot better, and Costa Tszyu can keep up with him. So I'm interested in seeing how Keith Thurman does, what his cardio looks like, and so on. I know Keith Thurman generally stays in shape. So the question really is going to be, does the age of Keith Thurman succumb to Fundora's relentless attack on him? Or will Keith Thurman show us veteran savvy, be able to offset a lot of things that Fundora does? Because Fundora is a rhythm fighter. And also, will he be able to execute what he plans on doing to Fundora with his in and out style that he has? And will Fundora be successful at landing punches to his body? That's another, very important thing, that Keith Thurman is known to be susceptible to body shots. So I'm sure Fundora is very much aware of that going into this fight. So because of those things, I can't give Keith Thurman, I can't outright say, well, Keith Thurman will win this fight. But the way how Keith Thurman is talking, clearly he has a game plan, and clearly he knows what he wants to go in there and do. The question is, can he do it? So that's the biggest question of the whole thing, really. That's basically it. He's not at welterweight anymore. He's not really, I wouldn't consider him a big super welterweight. Of course, we'll have to see when they go on the scales and on fight night. He has had a lot of time to prepare and acclimatize to super welterweight. The thing is, he's dealing with a very, the towering inferno, as they call him. The guy brings it. He's big. He's tall. Keith Thurman has power, but we've seen the power at super welterweight. He has power at super welterweight. The question is, Fundora's a big dude. So it's not like, you're just going to knock him out just like that. You have to be really strong to knock him out, for starters, and a decent puncher. A really decent puncher at super welterweight, not at welterweight. At welterweight, Keith Thurman was a really great puncher. The question is he a really decent puncher at super welterweight? That's the question. So there's a lot of questions going into this Fundora versus Keith Thurman fight. Fundora generally throws like a million punches. So we're going to see. Can Keith Thurman take down the tree? We will find out. But this is an intriguing matchup. And it's for the WBC World Super Welterweight Championship of the world, So I am very intrigued to see what happens there. And then the undercard. And I got to tell you, PBC is putting on a hell of a card here. O'Shaquie Foster versus Stephen Fulton. That's another, just a barn burner right up in there. You know what I'm saying? O'Shaquie Foster versus Stephen Fulton. That's a hell of a fight. Fulton coming up from featherweight, having been the WBC champ there, to take on the WBC current champion, O'Shaquie Foster. That's another tremendous fight you're looking at there. So we're going to see how that pans out. And then all of this is in October, the 25th, the end of October. This is a scintillating card. O'Shaquie Foster, of course, tremendously skilled fighter, and Stephen Fulton also a tremendously skilled fighter. The question is, does the weight climb up without any kind of tune-up fight for Stephen Fulton? Can he take on this challenge? Obviously, he has veteran experience over O'Shaquie Foster, been at the championship level for a very long time. So this is not anything surprising to him. And we're going to see how Stephen Fulton performs against O'Shaquie Foster. The demeanor of Stephen Fulton, the confidence, it lends itself more towards Stephen Fulton. But the prove people wrong, taking anything as fuel, that's O'Shaquie Foster right now. So we're going to see. That's a lovely matchup. As we get closer and closer to the fight, I'll be able to do predictions for that. But that's a great matchup, and that's why I said boxing is not dead. Then Abel Ramos versus Shane Mosley Jr. This is another very good fight. Shane Mosley's last performance was fantastic. He looked very sharp. Abel Ramos obviously had a great fight with the WBC or WBA, I can't remember, champion. This is before he fought Manny Pacquiao. I'm talking about, what's his name? The guy that fought Tank and Keith Thurman and so on. What's his name? The Aztec Warrior. I forgot what his name is. If you guys know what the Aztec Warrior's name is. Abel Ramos always been a tough fight for anybody. Tremendous fighter. Hold on, it'll come to me. Hold on a second. Let me just see if I can find the name here. Hold on a second. He is a really good fighter. For some reason, I can't remember his name. Okay, I should see it right here. Yeah, so Abel Ramos fought against Omar Figueroa, beat him. He fought to draw with Mario Barrios, and what that was a hell of a fight. He not only fought against Dennis Ugas as well. Abel Ramos is a hell of a fighter. Let's see what else he fought here. Jamal James, Ivan Baranchenk, all these guys he fought. Regis Prograis. Okay, Abel Ramos, he's fought the who's who. He had a draw with Maurice Hooker. He gives anybody a tough fight. Abel Ramos is a hell of a fighter, man. Hell of a fighter. He's given a lot of people tough fights. So, yeah, he's fought Maurice Hooker early on in his career, Regis Prograis, Ivan Baranchenk, Dennis Ugas, Omar Figueroa, and Cody Crowley, and also Mario Barrios. This guy, man, fought a lot of former and present world champions. This guy gonna bring it. So Abel Ramos versus Shane Mosley Jr. Of course, this is probably his first. Oh, it's actually at middleweight. So he's jumped up all the way up to middleweight to face Shane Mosley Jr. This will be a good fight, and I'm telling you right now, you don't want to miss that. So that's some upcoming fights there that, the PBC card here is lit when it comes to those fights. I'm not going to lie to you. Now, later on in the year, in the month of November, we got another lit card, and that card has to do, oh, by the way, Virgil Ortiz, he'll be taking on Erickson Lubin the 8th of November, 2025. And that's going to be a good fight. It's two named fighters. I favor Virgil. I can definitely tell you I favor Virgil Ortiz to beat Erickson Lubin, even though Erickson Lubin is a southpaw, and he's doing pretty good right now. He's on the upswing again. But I think Virgil Ortiz is going to be too much for him. I've seen him fight a really difficult fight with the guy that knocked out Costa Zoo. But the guy that no. The guy that fought Terrence Crawford, not the guy that knocked out Costa Zoo. The guy that fought Terrence Crawford. And man, he fought a hell of a fight against that guy. So I expect Virgil Ortiz Jr. to beat Erickson Lubin. Of course, anything is possible. Also, you have Floyd Schofield. He'll be taking on Jojo Diaz. That's another hell of a fight right there. Jojo Diaz is a hell of a fighter. I would really love to see that matchup. Is a really good matchup. Again, the card here. The card here is pretty interesting. This is a good, interesting card. Now, even though I favor Virgil Ortiz to beat Erickson Lubin, I'm going to just put this caveat right in there that I think that Erickson Lubin has been performing. And this guy, he's been putting in that work. So it wouldn't be surprising to me if somehow he pulls the upset. Somehow, I say. Because he's dangerous. He has a lot of power in his shots and all of that. So we're going to see. But Virgil Ortiz, I think he fought. I'm trying to remember who Virgil Ortiz fought. Hold on a second. Let me bring back the name of the guy because I can't remember his name for no reason right now. But hold on a second. 1 second. There he is, Virgil Ortiz Jr. So he recently won against Israel Madrimov. So he also beat Serhiy Burchuk. I remember Serhiy Burchuk. I think Burchuk was undefeated at the time when he fought him. And Burchuk gave him a good fight. I'm not going to lie. Okay? Burchuk gave him a good fight. Let me see. This was... What weight was this at? Anyway, I'm trying to remember how many fights he had at super welterweight. I know Burchuk is one, and Madrimov. And Madrimov is not an easy fight for nobody. Okay? So he's had a Madrimov fight. He's had the Boychuk fight. Now he's going to have Erickson Lubin. These are good, solid fights. And Serhii Boychuk, if I'm not mistaken, was undefeated when he fought him. So these are good fights for Virgil Ortiz. Virgil Ortiz is doing this thing. And that's why I favor him to beat Erickson Lubin. You know. And then Floyd Schofield versus Jojo Diaz. Now, remember, Jojo Diaz had beaten Tevin Farmer, and Schofield basically destroyed Tevin Farmer. So I'm interested in seeing how Schofield performs against Jojo Diaz, who has been at the weight class for a good minute now. Now, Tevin Farmer, he moved up to that weight class, and he fought the kid that fought Shakur Stevenson. He had 2 fights with that guy. He clearly lost the second fight, but the first fight, he put the guy down. He knocked him down. And, you know, you could have favored Tevin Farmer for the win. I'm trying to remember what the guy's name is that Tevin Farmer fought, and that's kind of crazy that I don't remember him. Shakur Stevenson obviously dominated that kid. I'm going to tell you what his name is in a second. Again, Golden Boy keeps on producing some really good fighters out there. Virgil Ortiz is another solid, good, solid, and so is Floyd Schofield, also known as, Floyd Schofield is also very, shit. Okay, hold on a second, guys. It's raining right now. Every day it seems to rain these days. So. Okay, hold on a second. I don't need all of this, homie. I don't need all of this. Come on. Yeah, Shakur Stevenson, that's the name. Yeah, William Zepeda, that's the guy. So William Zepeda, he had beaten Tevin Farmer, right? Tevin Farmer had 2 fights with William Zepeda. Then he took on Floyd Schofield. And let me see if I can find Floyd Schofield back again. Let me see. That's Virgil Ortiz. I hope I spelled his name correctly. Okay, here's it. Schofield's with an H. And Floyd Schofield, also known as, he got a nickname, but that's crazy. I can't find it. Can't find his nickname. See, as you can see, knocked out Tevin Farmer. Right? Let's see what else he had. And Golden Boy being, Golden Boy been bringing him along nicely, though. I think he wanted a fight with Shakur, and then they kind of backed out of that. Shakur's too much for that kid right now, but, Floyd Schofield, he's going to be taking on Jojo Diaz. That's a good little matchup right there. We're going to find out what Floyd Schofield's got. I mean, he's a skilled fighter. He switches stances and stuff like that. So we're gonna see, right? So this is a decent card with Schofield, Diaz, and Ortiz and Lubin. I don't know the other 2 fighters, to be honest with you, but we'll skip this one. You got 15th of November rematch between Eubank Jr. and Conor Benn. That should be a good fight. On the undercard, you got Catterall coming back. I haven't seen Jack Catterall in a minute. And then this is a very lit card. The 22nd of November, 2025, we got David Benavidez and Anthony Yarde fighting for the WBC World Lightweight Heavyweight Championship. Of course, I see here also the WBA World Light Heavyweight Championship. I'm not sure if Anthony Yarde won that. Let me just check. Maybe that's what Anthony Yard won. Again, those are not the real titles. So this is Anthony Yard here. And he's fighting David Benavidez. They say for the WBC Light Heavyweight Championship. So I'm not sure where the WBA comes into play here. I'll tell you what, I want to check Dimitri Bivol for a second, see what's happening here. Dimitri Bivol. Now I know when he beat Artur Beterbiev, he became undisputed, right? So he had the IBF, he had the IBF, the WBC, the WBO. Oh, he did not have the WBA title though. He didn't have the WBA title. So he wasn't undisputed. I thought he was undisputed. Okay. Yeah. Oh. What's going on here? When he fought Artur Beterbiev, they're also saying like he didn't have the WBA title, but that's weird. No, that can't be. That can't be. The WBA, I don't know what's going on with BoxRec. BoxRec don't got the right stuff. So let me see if I can find Dimitri Bivol, because y'all missing out some information. Hold on one second. Let me see what's going on here. Okay, yeah. So he had the WBA as well. The WBA super title, the WBC, the IBF, the WBO, and the IBO. Okay, and the ring light heavyweight titles. Okay, he lost that. So he lost his WBA. He was the WBA champion. He lost that, and Beterbiev won, had the WBC, the IBF, and the WBO. Okay. And he became the Ring Magazine light heavyweight champion, and then Bivol became it. Okay. So the question right now is Dimitri Bivol, what is he currently? So let's see here. It doesn't really say. So I think he is. Let's look at current. Current boxing champions here. Yeah. Okay. So let's go to light heavyweight here. Yeah. So Dimitri Bivol is the WBA super champion, and David Benavidez is the regular champion. There you go. Okay. But they have David Benavidez as the WBC champion. So apparently they stripped Dimitri Bivol of his WBC title. And I don't know how David Benavidez got it. Maybe because he's the number one contender, or maybe he fought for it. I'm trying to remember. David Benavidez, when he fought, let me see. I'm going to find out right now. David Benavidez, when he fought David Morrell, they must have fought for the vacant. Yes. No. He was the WBC interim light heavyweight champion. So he became the WBC regular champion. That's what happened. So he was the interim champion. He won it against Alexander Govorstik. So all here he was at super middleweight. He had the interim WBC title. And then he jumped up to light heavyweight, fought Govorstik, That was his first debut into the thing, and he won the vacant WC interim light heavyweight champ title. And then from there, he fought David Morrell, which is a very good fighter. Also moved up, and he was able to beat David Morrell, and he won the WBA regular light heavyweight championship and the interim WBC. So he's been promoted now to the WBC champion, and Bivol has been stripped of the WBC title, so he's no longer undisputed. I get it now, and that's why Bivol's probably moving up to cruiserweight to take on Jai up to Chaya. I think that's what's happening. All right, so there you go. All right, but this is a good fight. Anthony Yard, he's not a champion. He's never been a champion in anything. David Benavidez has been the WBA light heavyweight champion, regular champion. He's the regular champion right now, which is why it's probably in black. And he's the WBC light heavyweight champion. So Anthony Yard will be fighting for two titles. One is a secondary title, and one is the actual title. I guess it's third try at a world title shot. So shout out to Anthony Yard and getting himself in position to make that happen. I'm not sure if Anthony Yard ever faced Dimitri Bivol. I can't remember, but I can always look it up, right? So let's look it up and see. I don't think Bivol ever faced Anthony Yard. He's faced Artur Beterbiev. He's faced Lyndon Arthur, who beat Anthony Yard. He faced Gilberto Ramirez. Those two fighters he beat up. That was Canelo and Craig Richards, Joe Smith Jr., Jean Pascal, but he's never Sullivan Barrera even. He's beaten all those guys, but he's never faced Anthony Yard, which is interesting. So David Benavidez, he's going to be taking on pretty tough customer. We'll see if he can win that fight. Gets past Anthony Yard, and we're talking at a shot at the WBA, the other titles against Dimitri Bivol. But that's not the only fight that's interesting. This is very interesting. Devin Haney versus Norman Jr. This is for the welterweight WBO title, I think it is. I think it's the WBO. This is another very, very good fight in which, it's just a very, very good fight. This one was saying David Benavidez may prevail. And this one, Haney versus Norman Jr., you would think Haney would prevail in this fight, but no, Norman Jr. is no slouch. I mean, good boxing IQ, got some good power. So, and he's looking to stop Devin Haney's movement forward, prove a point. So this is a very, very good fight. And we're going to see who's going to prevail in this one. Brian Norman, not known as well as Devin Haney, earned his spot, earned his championship. So we'll see if Devin Haney can get past Brian Norman, because that's not an easy task to get past, I don't think. I think he's all around a very good boxer, very solid. On the same card, we're going to see Anthony Mason on his rise. He's going to be facing Noax from Great Britain. And Bam Bam Rodriguez, he'll be taking on Martinez, defending his super flyweight titles. So I'm very eager to see those fights as well. And also the return of Artur Beterbiev. He'll be taking on a guy named Nicholson from the United States of America. This is a pure fire card. It's a pure fire card. No other way to talk about it. This is pure fire right here. So we have those two really big fire cards I just talked about there to look at. We have an Inui who's going to be taking on Nasukawa. That's not Naoya Inui. That's going to be on November 24th. Saturday, the 6th of December, we have Apataya defending his world championship, his IBF Cruiserweight Championship. And then the following day, so this is Saturday the 6th, the following couple weeks to the end of the year, we'll have Naoya Inui versus Picasso from Italy. or from Italy? No, no, this is from Mexico, I believe. It's for the IBF Junior Featherweight Championship or Super Bantamweight Champion. His is undisputed championships, in other words. And it's gonna be in Saudi Arabia. Okay, not much of a fiery card for me because I don't know most of those fighters, but that's basically what we have to look forward to at the end of the year. But of course, the two fiery cards are Saturday, the 22nd of November, Benavidez versus Yard. That whole card's lit up with championship fights from Haney. Mason gets a shot at, I believe it's lightweight. This is not a championship fight, but Bam Bam at super flyweight. That's a championship fight against Martinez. Just seeing the return of Beterbiev. I'm not sure who the Nicholson guy is, but Yard versus Benavidez, that's a championship fight, and that's a hell of a fight. Haney versus Norman, that's a hell of a fight. Bam Bam versus Martinez, that's going to be more of a showcase fight for Bam. Good fight. Argentinian fighter, though, Martinez, so you can't take him lightly. That should be an interesting fight. So those three championship fights there are going to be pure fire. And then October, I think it was October the 25th or something like that, we got another fire card coming for us. Let me see if I can find it somewhere in here. This card right here is pure fire. See this card right here? Fundora versus Thurman, which is going to be October the 25th. This is a pure fire card. You got Fundora versus Thurman, then you got Foster versus Fulton, then you got Ramos versus Mosley Jr. I'm telling you, that's fire. It's pure fire. And then you got two Mexican fighters to start off the fire. Lots of fire going on there. So that's a fire card right there. You know what I'm saying? I don't think there's anything else that's pure fire for the rest of the year. But October 25th and November the 22nd, those are going to be pure fire. Anything else, not as fiery this year, but we had some fire this year. So we take it with a pinch of salt. We've got a lot of fire cards. So that's what I got for you guys, man.